You're watching this video because you want to succeed in the food industry. Tim Forrest has over 35 years in the industry working with global giants like Nestle and Unilever. Tim has guided food brands into major retailers, resulting in over $1 billion in revenue growth. He's an FDA compliance expert and trusted by the Fortune 50, delivering success for industry leaders like McDonald's, Mars, Walmart, Costco, Disney, QVC, Kroger, Hershey, and Hain Celestial, just to name a few. Tim is a dream to work with, not only because partnering with him leads to exponential growth, but because he truly cares about his clients and enjoys helping them to succeed. Here to share his expertise on a framework that will set you up for success in the food industry is Tim Forrest.
Thank you very much, Suvi. That's wonderful, everything you shared, and it's just very nice. So thank you very much.
Well, I'm so excited to have you here today, Tim, because you are the expert, as I mentioned. You've actually developed a strategy that you call MMA-SVQ. Can you tell everyone what that is and where did this formula come from?
It's the way I live my life. It's the way that my life has progressed, and that I've been able to help so many clients and help and do so many things and accomplish so many things in my life, Suvi.
What does MMA-SVQ stand for?
So it's real simple when you go through the list. So the mentors in my life, the models, and then taking action on that. And those three areas are powered by three additional pieces, and that is strategy, vision, and curiosity. And so much of what I do to help my clients has either emanated from that model, or either it's the result of that, or it's applying that model. Whether it's working with QVC, working with McDonald's, getting items on the menu, or being successful overseas, so much of what happens, and so what it almost, in some instances, it might look like magic because we're so easy and so quick to do. But it goes back to those mentors. It goes back to the models that I learned either working for the largest food brands in the world like Nestle or Unilever, or working, very fortunate to work with literally some of the most talented people in the world. And I can just remember in college working with Tom Little. He had won over 200 advertising awards. He's now in the Advertising Hall of Fame. And I was just, anything he said, I was listening to. And the things that he did and the way he did it, he shared with me how he created the name for Mellow Yellow, which Coca-Cola hired him to create that. And those sorts of things just naturally are going to be a part of the work that I do today with my clients. And it just goes on and on. It's not just one, but Wally Amos, founder of Famous Amos, he's in the Smithsonian today for the first original cookie store. So there were no cookie stores before Wally Amos, just dedicated to cookies. But my friend David Klein, David founded Jelly Belly Jelly Beans. Or the many of the professionals that I've worked with to think about, how do I go about selling to QVC television? That took, the first item on QVC television took 4 years, and then it just went on from there. Or meeting Jim Senegal, the founder of Costco Wholesale, and the success that we've had on item after item in Costco. I've created products that have gone on. They've done over $100 million in sales at Costco Wholesale. And it all goes back to the model that we're talking about. And so it's going to be those mentors, whether it's personal friends, associates, or when I was working with the big corporations, it would have been a lot of my bosses and team members. And then the models, there are just so many models. And Charlie Munger is credited with creating so many of these models and really getting this kind of idea. And that's what got me interested into it as far as the models. And then thinking about Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, the work with his models, but just so many different models. Jay Abraham, as far as growth, thinking about how you grow products. Also, the models that I've created, what I would do is think about, how did I sell that first item to QVC television? So what is it that I did? How did I go about being successful with a national drugstore chain? How did I be successful? What was it that were the steps involved when I was living it? So we're celebrating our 28th year at Tim Forrest Consulting. Now, when I was living some of these initial, I remember my first client, first $1 million client in the food business. This is many decades ago. I was living that, and so I was in the moment. Now, with a little bit of time and the additional skill, ability, wisdom, I've been able to go back and look at that and formulate a lot of the processes. And that's one of the things that's so important. Everything that I share, I want it to be duplicatable. I want to identify the steps, and then I want it to be duplicatable and repeatable for my clients. And that's what all of this is about. And that's one of the reasons so many of my clients have been so successful is this system, these models, and that's why they become national brands. Mother-in-law's kimchi followed these process from being just simply at a farmer's market to now being the number one national brand of kimchi, artisanal brand kimchi in the United States. She's doing over $10 million a year. And those systems and processes are so important. They're going to slim down, cut the learning curve, along with speed up your revenue and your opportunities. And also it's going to remove a lot of the barriers and the dead ends that people go down that put them out of business.
I love that. And that's one of the most important parts. And I think that's what a lot of people who are watching this today are dealing with right now. So, what advice can you impart onto the food entrepreneurs and companies out there who are looking to excel in this big giant food industry? What's the first step using your formula that they can take when it comes to models and mentors? What do you mean by models and mentors?
The first thing that comes to mind is a paradigm shift. So many people, Tim, how do I sell these big retailers? Tim, how do I be successful? I want to have a very successful big company. And so the first thing I want to share, what I've learned from my mentors and models, is that it's not about selling retailers. We're not in the retail or distributor business. If you look at my videos on distributors and selling retailers, there's so many people, there's so much interest there. I receive so many questions on how do I sell distributors? How do I sell these big buyers? And the paradigm shift there is you're not in the supermarket business, you're not in the distributor business, you're in the consumer product space. And so that's the first thing is how are you, your company, relating and working with consumers? And that's one of the first things that I share when I speak internationally with clients is that it's about US consumers. If you want to be successful here, it's understanding the US consumer and providing a solution to a problem that they care about, that they're aware of, and the key is they're willing to pay for it. And so not only are they aware of it, they know they have this problem, but they're willing to pay for it, and that's enough to generate enough income for your business to be successful. Then once you find that, all we have to do is scale that. And so I already have the models. I have the models in place. I know when I see an item, even if you're only in one location, I can take that and understand in interviewing, working with a food entrepreneur, I can understand if that's something that can scale and we can build a large business, just like with Dano's now. He's in 40,000 retail locations. And the reason is he connected with a consumer just as we're talking about right now. And he built he built his business model on serving that consumer. And then he scaled that relationship with consumers. He didn't start with a retail relationship and then, oh, we're going to scale more supermarkets. He started with a consumer relationship and said, oh, we're going to scale more consumer relationships. And that's what he built. The retailers, the distributors, the locations that stock his product, they're serving his relationship with those consumers. And it may or may not seem like a subtle difference, but it's a huge difference for food entrepreneurs. So I've got a model. It's 4 words I share with clients. And so we have customers, we have buyers, we have shoppers, and then we have consumers. What's so important is our relationship as a food company, as a consumer product company, is with consumers. So customers generally, oftentimes for food entrepreneurs, are going to be distributors. Customers are the people that give your business money. Even though they're so important to the chain, the supply chain, that's a function of distribution. So we need to deal with distributors. But distributors only sell to their customers. And so the next piece of that is we have to have our product authorized in supermarkets. That's where the buyers come in. So buyers are the ones that will specify our particular food product for the supermarket. And then the customer is the distributor. And then now we're going to get to now we're on the shelf at the supermarket and we're thinking, well, what's our business about? At the supermarket, your product is purchased by a shopper. It's oftentimes it's not even the actual consumer of your product. So now we've got to get into the buggy in order to get home so that the person is actually going to consume your product consumes it. And so the key to all of this is that relationship between your brand and the consumer. That's going to drive success throughout the entire channel, through the shopper, through the buyer, and then through your actual customer that gives your company money. So that's a lot of detail, but people want to skip over a lot of pieces of the food business and think, oh, I'm going to create a food business. All I need is a great salesperson. Do you know distributors? And then I'm in business. It's not going to work. We need the product not only to get on the shelf or into the warehouse, we need to get it also, we want to get it out of the basket and into the home and into the consumer that's going to enjoy it. And it works the same on food service. We've got to have a reason. There's got to be a purpose for us to have that relationship with the diner or with someone that's going to visit that location and buy food.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise and your secrets to success. I think that's a huge takeaway for everyone to sort of sit with and really think about. And, in your work with your clients, if people want to know more about the value of building relationships and mentorship more in detail, that's something they can definitely do with you when they sign up with you. I love how that whole area of topic is such a foundational key to the longevity and success of a food product in the industry. So we'll leave that one there. I think that people can ask you more about that when they reach out to you. Another thing that I really respect and appreciate about partnering with Tim Forrest Consulting is that you are an FDA compliance expert. So your clients have the benefit of someone who is constantly looking through this FDA compliance lens. How does this advantage provide bigger, better, and faster results for the clients who sign up with you?
Well, the first thing, Suvi, thank you very much, is that we're opening the U.S. market. So the U.S. market, half the world's consumption, half the world's spending on groceries and food products are in the United States. So we're only, just a few 100 million people. So when you compare our populations, that might be surprising to many. But as far as the pocketbook, the American purse, as far as the spending on food, is half. So we're going to open up the U.S. market to these international producers. The other thing that's going to happen is that we're going to do this very quickly and we're going to avoid denial of entry. It's frustrating for me when people call me after they've had a denial of entry. The part of the issue with denial of entry, not only you're not able to be in business. There's so many different costs associated with it. Not only are you quickly able to grow your business in the U.S. market and begin selling and sampling, working with U.S. consumers, distributors, shoppers, but you're going to have an issue of potentially if you have to destroy the product. So if the FDA demands that you destroy the product, you're going to have to pay them for the extra shipping and work involved in paying for it actually to be taken care of and destroyed. They may give you the opportunity to likely to return it back out of the country. So there you're going to have storage fees and then shipping back to your home country of the product. And so right there, the problems don't end with those expenses. Also, because this has occurred, you're now going to be under additional scrutiny, which means your orders are going to be delayed, oftentimes for a year or longer because it'll be on your record. And so not only you have all these different issues, so if you don't do this correctly, it creates additional expenses, additional time. Also, it's much more difficult to judge exactly what your service levels are. Because of these issues, I have one client that is dealing with 60-day delays. This is very unusual, but their situation they're forced to be basically delayed for 60 days because of prior issues. And so that's just not something that you want to be involved in, particularly with the opportunity that's in the US. And so there's so many issues that you want to get this right. I've worked with the largest food brands in the world, Nestle and Unilever, early on. And so I learned a lot. I learned about bringing international brands into the US going decades ago. This is our 28th year, and we're of helping international brands succeed in the United States. And so we've got a tremendous amount of experience. We've also written guidebooks and we have checklists. We begin all our projects with a very thorough and specific checklist. And this is not available really in other places. The other thing also is we train our clients. So we work hand in hand. So the way that we have meetings like this over Zoom, where we just go through the process and they know exactly what we're doing and we know what their needs and questions. Generally, we know what their questions are, but they'll bring any additional questions that they have as well to those meetings, and we go forward. We've been excited to do this and to help clients enter the U.S. market. But one of the things that I learned from my bosses, some of my mentors, was we want to do as much work as possible for the client for them to succeed. So it's we're it's just I heard the word a servant's heart, but that's really what it is. We want to do anything and everything that we can to serve our clients. And if we do this effectively, it's going to build a stronger business. And so for McDonald's, we just one of the things that my bosses helped me with is to understand who are the distributors of McDonald's, where are the operators of McDonald's, what are the locations of McDonald's, and then we need to do audits and store checks. We need to visit what's happening in the field. We need to visit enough locations so that we can get an understanding of actually how the business is being operated. And so by doing that, we can begin to visit locations, visit franchise locations, visit operators, and understand how they're training their people and what's happening. So what can we do to impact that? And so that was one of the things that I was so effective with McDonald's, is that we had an item, we were able to get it on the menu, but also we did not have operators with it in the field necessarily that were selling and marketing it in different locations. So very simply, we visited locations, we did audits, we thought about the problems, and then what can we do to mitigate that? How can we improve that? And we just asked that question. And then we started to look for opportunities to make that happen. Just asking questions. How can we be effective with what we have? How can we be effective with the locations that we have and the distributors that we're working with and the business that we currently have? So much, and I was thinking about this earlier today. It's great that you asked it, Suvi. So much of the success that I've had has not been adding new customers. And so it's really important. And so well, Tim, what do you mean? What do you mean not adding new customers? I thought that's how we grow a business. The areas that we had success with, like this situation with McDonald's, and then also when I think of other distributors, particularly in the convenience store industry, I was able to take existing distributors and apply these models to it, and we were able to double their business. So we had 150% growth average for these distributors that we had been working with for years, that my clients had been working with for years. We just came in and did the work that a lot of people thought that they were doing, and my clients didn't understand that was not getting done. So we did the audits, did the audits, realized it's not happening, and then we began chipping away, doing the work that we anticipated or it thought that the clients had thought that the distributors were doing. But if you think about my McDonald's audit that I learned while working with Unilever, we just apply that to food entrepreneurs, and then we take their existing accounts, and then we do the audit. We find there's opportunities, and then we put effort behind that, and that's how we were able to grow these distributors by 150%. So no new customers, but we were able to make the customers we did have much more effective by applying these models that I've developed over the decades in the food business.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I appreciate about Tim Forrest Consulting so much is how thorough you are and truly how much you care about the partnerships that you make and the people that you work with. I mean, I just so everyone knows a little bit of background about me, I've had the pleasure of deeply researching some of Tim's client success stories for a project, and a theme that I kept coming across with all the clients that you list on your website is how much they enjoyed working with you, how easy it was, how knowledgeable you were, how skilled, how thorough, and how much you cared. It was very much a strong theme. They were successful because they had you in their corner, someone who genuinely cared about their success and who was genuinely excited to see them meet their goals. So that's something I have a great respect for. And along those lines, I feel that maybe one of the misconceptions some people might have about you, Tim, is that your strategies are only used or best used with the big food chain giants. But really, you've created organic product strategies that set industry benchmarks, resulting in over $100 million in organic sales. So, what advice do you have for the small food entrepreneurs out there on how they can experience exponential growth?
Exactly. That's what this is all about. The industry giants are using models. These models can be used. They've been proven effective, and they can be used by food entrepreneurs such as Dan. So that's what we did with Dan, and that's what Dan has done. He's followed these models and has grown his business to over 40,000 retail locations. He was not a big guy. I mean, he's a former bartender. He was a bar back, and he only had a recipe, and he took it forward with these models and with understanding the consumer. It was not a fact that he was a big company. And so many of my client successes have been like that, where we started literally on their kitchen table. I know Nadine, she would not have a debt-free business, millions of dollars in sales, if we had not worked together, because she was thinking about going down that path of attempting to imitate the big guys and take out massive loans, find massive investment, and we were able to do it a different way. And my goal is to scale success, and we basically start small. That's the reason that I've been able to work with so many clients that literally are at a farmer's market, or they're in less than 5 retail locations, and we're able to scale and grow them because of using these models. It's effective for the big guys, and it's just a matter of scale. And it's very effective for food entrepreneurs that are just getting started. And it's a great path to success with my client. I enjoy working with food entrepreneurs because it brings so much of who I am to the table, and allows me to work in so many different areas.
Absolutely. And so that everyone knows, Dan O Seasoning and Nadine, that Tim has mentioned, are clients of his, and their stories are available on his website and on his YouTube channel. I highly recommend you go and check out their stories, because I know that you will be able to get inspired and connect and relate to them right away. And thanks, Tim, because that actually perfectly is a segue into my next question for you, which I love, is, one of the most unique and useful aspects about your strategy, I think, is that it replicates success consistently once you implement it just once. It's like the blueprint for success in the food industry. Now, this is the exact same framework that you use to create over $1 billion in revenue for your clients. Can you share a little bit about how this framework is able to duplicate results?
We've been talking this entire time really about frameworks and about my client success of following the frameworks. And if you don't know, I've written a book on my framework. So the framework, everyone's got a recipe. And so it's a 5-step framework that I discovered working with my clients, and I understood it from the path of success that they've gone down. And we've already talked about it, but the 5 steps begin with the client and actual consumer. Who is the consumer with this issue? What is the problem that we're solving for them? The second step is how we communicate that to them. So how is it that we're effectively communicating the solution that we have for a specific consumer. The third piece is the channels. So the channels are so important, particularly if you're a food entrepreneur. I learned how to manage channels for brands, working with the biggest brands in the world. And I have a very delineated process, and I understand that from a systems process approach. Food entrepreneurs don't necessarily think about that. They think, where do I find buyers of my food product in my city? But there's actually channels. A stadium is very different from a convenience store, which is very different from a supermarket, which is very different from a theme park. And so oftentimes you're like, oh, I just want to sell my food product and do great. And then how do I get it out there? But if you'll step back for a second and start thinking about these channels, the channels are what's so successful. And that's where the success comes, is from identifying the needs of the channel, just like what we did with a consumer, and then thinking about how you're going to deliver the value of your product to that specific channel. A successful item at Costco wholesale often is not generally going to be successful in a convenience store. The same thing going for a stadium. You will not see consumers buying club store product at a stadium. They need ready to eat product. However, they're going to consume it right there at the event. And so you need to think about that, along with all the needs. We start talking about some of the needs of channels. You can think about signage, branding needs. A stadium, you're going to need signage for the menu. You're going to need signage in the stadium to be successful. Whereas retail is going to be the packaging itself. And so there's all these different needs. So we've just gotten through. Those are the three most important things. We haven't even talked about the food product. The food product is the fourth thing on the list. So many people come to me and say, Tim, I've created a great food product. Now help me sell it. But really, what I'm looking for is, I have found a great problem consumers have, and my food product solves it. So let's bring this to market. That is the difference in success. Those are the items that do so well and that we are able to scale and to be huge successes. The last piece of that model is, we want to think about your unique strategy, your unique opportunity. How can you build a moat around this value so that you can continue to serve longer?
Be very specific and be very strategic about the thinking around your distribution channels. Like, that's a huge start right there. Thank you so much for sharing that. My goodness, you're giving away almost all your secrets here. Not
Thank
really.
you,
This is
Subi.
just the tip of the iceberg with Tim Forrest, you
Yeah.
guys. This is so exciting. Well, on that note, Tim, one of the principles that I really appreciate about the MMA-SVQ framework is that it's based on the foundation of taking action even when things may be messy or imperfect. Now, you've used this mindset with the Fortune 50 companies like Nestle and Disney and Hershey and QVC. Can you explain why taking action is so crucial, even when things aren't perfect or ideal yet? What is to gain there?
So what the action does, the action is what illuminates this pathway for us. So we're unable to see the pathway beforehand. So what I'm talking about is, we need to take lots of action, massive action, and then there are going to be indicators from consumers that we're on the right path and we want to continue forward. If it were easy and if you could just buy your way into making these things happen, Coca-Cola would never have to buy a beverage company. All these craft foods would never buy another food company. They would just create it themselves. They don't see the pathways. And it takes food entrepreneurs seeing these opportunities and having relationships with these smaller consumer markets, that they're able to go, like vitamin water purchased by Coca-Cola. A couple of entrepreneurs there in New York, is what I understand, they were able to see this opportunity, and they began super small and were able to expand this. They took lots of action, had lots of accounts, but they discovered where their success was. They discovered the sweet spot of innovation, where consumers were willing to pay for their product and go forward. And they were serving a specific need. And that's the key, as far as taking action and finding those spots, because there's lots of little actions that don't work. When we find what works and we put all our effort there, and that is I hope that answers your question regarding that.
Oh, that's so brilliant, and I love that. I mean, if you're not taking action, you're not discovering or revealing the intel and information and details that you need to, like you said, create that path to success. So, taking action even when you feel like you're not ready or things aren't perfectly aligned or you don't feel confident yet, I mean, if you don't take that action, you're not getting your intel and your information. So,
Right.
I think that's another lens to look at it through is, it's a learning experience and you need to make that first step to get what you need.
It's so easy for food entrepreneurs, for people to sit in their office to come up with ideas, but we need for those ideas to be tested. Big companies have the budget and money to create products, bring them to the market, test them, and if they fail, oh well, that's $10 million. That's our development budget for this year. They don't want to lose 10 million, but that's not an issue. Food entrepreneurs, on the other hand, they need to think, how can I create a product that is successful out of the gate? And by talking to consumers ahead of time, that's the way we do that. So that's just an area of action, finding what works, and then we want to scale that. I don't want, I generally ask my entrepreneurs that we work with we want to talk to consumers ahead of time. We want to introduce the voice of the consumer into every step that we can in the process of product development.
Absolutely. And I find something that's very interesting about you, Tim, is that you've taken all of your knowledge and experience and things that have worked very successfully for you and your clients, and you're now applying it to sort of other areas of your life or personal goals that you have. Something that most people may not know about you is that you have a global impact. So working with Tim Forrest isn't just, finding success in your own state with your own food product, but you're working with someone who's actually making an impact on a really huge, important scale. You are really well versed in the importance of relationship building and mentorship in the sense that you have a personal goal of building 100 schools in developing countries across the world. I believe to date that you have successfully built five, and you were able to do that through important framework models and mindsets of building relationships and nurturing those mentorships. How does that all come into play when we're talking about those personal goals?
Yeah, you're so right, and I agree. The reason the schools are here is because of the effectiveness of the models that we've developed. So I was sort of tasked in 2015 by my friend Amlin in Calcutta, India, to help create a vocational food school for the kids there, and it just so I had never done that before, so I was happy because of the relationship with Amlin. I said, "Oh, that's great. I'd be more than happy to assist you on this." And so I had to start thinking about how is it that what is a school? How do we build a school? What are the resources? What resources do we have? And so I
You
was
got
able,
specific and
yes,
strategic about your channels, right? You're like, okay,
ex
how do expansion, growth, success, how do we make this happen? First thing you did was you got specific about your points of contact.
exactly. And so I laid out what I thought were the five key areas that we needed to focus on. And then I said, well, this is what we need. And so we need these resources. And so it's really very similar to what I do in the food business for my clients. So I built a list of foundations. And so, with Dyson, one of the things we did with Dyson is I built a list of hospitals, because it's such an important part of what we were working on, in that particular division's business. But we built a list of foundations, not just foundations, US based foundations. We built a list of US based foundations that were interested in the food space. And so we created that. I was able to source, we're teaching these kids about working in restaurants and building their own food business potentially. So we need hygiene is so important for that. So we were able, the state of California provided us with the training for that. Our company, I work with food stylists and food photographers. So by using the internet, we were able to teach courses and record videos and teach them how to menu, doing food photography for menus and doing those sorts of things along with other materials. What's so exciting is that so we started, this was an idea probably 2014, we started in 2015, so here we are, it's 8 years later. One of the things that was so I mean so many different touching things, but the kids, and so the schools, has been going great, and we've got class after class graduating from there, but they've since gone on. The U.S. Embassy in India. It's called the American Center in Calcutta, India, and so they were recently awarded a contract to run the embassy's catering lunchroom. And so the breakfast and lunch are actually run by the school. It's called Prasad is the name of the school in Calcutta, India. And so that process was just so exciting and so wonderful. And I just felt so good about it. I actually did not tell anyone about it for years because I was like, I don't, I wasn't doing it. I was asked to help a friend. And so it wasn't like something that was a part of my, I didn't think of it as part of the business or it was really connected to the business. I thought it was more of a personal thing.
It's now an example of how your expertise is able to expand and reach different
Yeah,
heights that you didn't initially think were possible. I mean, the fact that
exactly.
these kids are now, in charge of creating the meals in the US Embassy, that's huge. And that's
I know.
that's a credit to the way you think and all the knowledge you have under your belt. Tim Forrest Consulting is like the jack of all trades in the food industry, or you're like the Swiss Army knife. Like you have it
Yeah,
all covered. You have a tool, a strategy, a framework for almost every single avenue or every single challenge or every single topic
yeah,
that a food entrepreneur or a food company is going to face that right now they don't even know exists. They don't know what they
yeah.
don't know. You are that
Eh,
Swiss Army knife that has all the
yeah.
answers, all the
Yeah,
tools.
I had just recently met an architect that helped me to understand how we can build a school for 15,000 US dollars if we use local materials. And so that's where I am right now. So the next decade, our goal is 100 schools around the world, and that's what we're working on. And that's an exciting part of using the processes and systems, and really the exact same thing we do every day with food entrepreneurs. We're doing that on the school side and helping kids as well with that. And it's so important. I know it's important to me because of all the mentors and the help that I had. When I was born, I couldn't speak. I was, had learning disabilities, had a lot of issues. And so if it weren't for the support of a very special school that my mother was able to get me into, I would not be able to do the things that I do and have the success and the client success that we've had over the years.
Well, that's so incredible, Tim. And I feel like, you kind of get the first five done and into reality. And that's sort of your blueprint and your intel and the information you need to do the next 10, 15, 20,
Right.
25 at a faster rate now that you've had the experience.
Uh,
I know that you're going to reach your goal and it is so important. I can't wait to see what you do next. Tim, where can people get more information on what it's like to partner with Tim Forrest Consulting, what it's like to learn more about your framework and your process? Where can people go for more information?
Yeah, so you can always go to our website, timforrest.com. Also, there's a lot of information on our YouTube channel if you go to youtube.com/Tim Forrest Consulting. And so there's so much of what we talked about is in different videos over the years. We've been doing videos for over a decade. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can send a note, tim@timforrest.com. Also, if you want to just get on my schedule, if you want to set up a meeting, you don't even have to call me. You can just jump on my calendar at timforrestmarkets.com, and there's spaces there. I would love to talk to you, particularly if you have an innovative food product that you're looking to scale in the U.S. market, or you're looking to bring products into the U.S. market. It would be awesome to talk to you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing just some of your insights and expertise. I know that after sitting down with you and watching this video. There is so much to take away from. So I truly appreciate your time and your generosity. So thank you, Tim.